locator is correct. Juliet Oscar 3-1 November Charlie is correct. Locator Juliet Oscar 3-1 November Charlie.
Why don't we go ahead and call the business meeting to order? And that way we're officially started with the video and we're all set, right? Okay. The first thing I'd like to do is introduce myself to some of you that I've not met yet. Is the audio okay? It seems loud to me. Way too loud. Turn it down.
It's okay. It's the problem with me sitting behind the speakers.
Well, you can sit in front of the speakers if you want to.
We'll have that discussion later.
Okay. Is that better? All right. I'll try not to get too excited up here. We've had a little trouble with the audio-visual stuff, as you can tell. We got here about 6:15, and it took us a while to get it done. And what I'd like to do is I'd like you all to stand here and not let them out until we take pictures and label all the cables, okay? And we'll see if we can't get it right. But it's a little interesting, I must admit. Okay, let me do something first, a little unorthodox. Mark, would you come up? And also, Chuck? Where's Chuck? Would you join us up here, Chuck, please? Most of you all know Chuck Catledge, I'm sure. You may not have seen this, but his daughters made this for him. And we thought we'd put this on the website, so we'll need somebody to help hold it up for us and let Chuck not have to worry about holding it up. I'll hold up one side if you want to. Is it upside down? Upside down? Yeah, you're not going to have to hold your own thing up there. Okay, you get to stand in front of it. Okay? We got a good picture, you think? Okay? We all set? We got enough pictures? Okay.
You know, one of the guys here didn't have a chance to go to that event because he was someplace else in the world. And we did something to honor him at that event, and we thought we'd repeat it again tonight because maybe he deserves it, maybe he doesn't. But Ham of the Year 2025 goes to our friend Roy, KQ4 OYM. So we want to present this plaque to you, Roy. Come on up here.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Roy.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, keep up the good work, Roy. And enjoy your time with Lee tonight. He's the new president in case, you didn't vote or do anything back in, when was it, October?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Seems like a long time.
I'll be sitting in the back.
Seems like a long time ago. I got it. Okay, let's go ahead and get the meeting started. And all right, we got 15 minutes, Dave. Do we still want to shut it at 8 o'clock for Ron? Okay. We had arranged for Ron Sherwood to start at a particular time since he's remote, and we felt like we'd be plenty of time to have a half hour ahead of time, so I'm going to go through these fairly quickly then, just to keep it going here. All righty. After that, I'd like to welcome the rest of you here. It's a pretty good-sized group, and I think we're starting to gain some traction with regard to the attendance here. I don't know how many people we have on Zoom or Meet. We'll check that out. The plan going forward is to try to open the offline or online net for the Meet at 7 o'clock and let them have a half hour to socialize a little bit. I'm one of the founding members of the Raleigh Club, and we started that with the Raleigh Club, and they're doing that. And I've been doing it for about 6 months, just showing up. And it's an interesting way to get an informal part of the group talking, and sometimes silent, but most times having a social gathering with or without this meeting being connected to it, but their own private small network. And I thought we'd try it out next time. In the club business meeting, some of the issues I'd like to show you a little bit about. What I'm going to try to do is say, all right, here's the 90-day going forward plan for what the board and I'll be working on, so you get a chance to see what's going on and what the active projects are and the things that you might like to put up there on the list that we'll start to talk about in this sort of a forum. But so it's just a kind of a roadmap of saying, here's what I've listed as some of the things that I think are important to get started early, and we'll talk through that a little bit and give you an idea of what that's like. Then I'll give you a bylaws update, and then also do a quick Tech Fest discussion, and then I'm kind of doing a pilot on the education plan, and we'll talk about that in more detail later on, but basically get the club back into doing license programs or licensing lessons. Then Rob's going to take on at 8 o'clock. And most of you, I think, probably know of Rob Sherwood, but he's an interesting guy. He and I are about the same age, it turns out. In fact, I used his list to buy my first 7300 transceiver, so he does nice work. Here's a quick, Wes, you want to say a few words about this one? Okay. Basically, this is the list of the last people we had testing. I went to the VE testing. Yes, sir.
Are we supposed to be seeing a slide deck or a video with you?
I was assuming you saw this. Okay. Silly me. Anyway, the interesting thing here is this is the first VE session I had been to with this club, and it was really rather enlightening. And I think it's important as we start to look at what other changes are being made by ARRL and the FCC with regard to going to online, you know, what we're doing currently and what's the impact of that going to be. So I thought I'd sit in on one of these VE sessions, and it was quite remarkable, especially given the fact that if you look at the people on this list, are any of them here tonight? I probably not, because most of them were kind of outsiders that were in the process of moving, and it was an interesting group. But the interesting thing is, if you look at it, basically all but one had a perfect score. And there were two husband and wife teams that were competing against each other, and they were generals and extras. And the wives doing the technician made perfect scores, and they were thinking, I got him this time. Well, he got 102, so it didn't quite work out. And the one guy that missed one question, he really kind of missed two because he erased one and put the wrong answer in there, even though the VE guy said don't do that ahead of time. So, but it was an interesting exercise to walk through, and I thought it was a super exercise for me to spin up on it quickly and get a sense of what it's like going forward. Okay, you guys know where these are. The exits, the restrooms, the remote audience, hopefully. By the way, do we know how many we have on the remote audience yet?
Yes, 16 including
Okay, super. That's going up a little bit too. Okay, and then Mike was kind enough to bring the coffee and snacks again. Thank goodness. Okay, calendar items coming up. We got Winter Field Day going, and there's been a little confusion as to, is NFARL going to do a Winter Field Day? And the answer is individually, yes. We didn't get our act together soon enough to say we want to do it as a club, but we'll probably look forward to doing something like that next year. So basically, we have teams, individuals, small groups, and some 4 or 5 people working together, going off their separate ways. But certainly, we're going to have a lot of participants, I think. Tech Fest is coming up the 31st, and CPO build. I'm doing a antenna optimization forum, and also I'm going to bring my nano VNA, and I'm doing a table to set up nano VNAs, and we'll see how that goes. So you just set it up for SWR, and if you got one, bring it, and we'll set it up. Okay. And then February, we got the club meeting, and the intent there is to do the bylaws votes on the 17th. So that was the plan. We'll talk about that in the bylaws section a little later. Okay, here's a 90-day action plan, and this was just kind of my first, probably 2 weeks before Christmas, sitting down and thinking about what we ought to be doing. And this is kind of in a chronological order. But the VP slot, I've got to get that filled, and some of the subcommittee chairs, we've got to go through that list, and that's probably number one on my list of things to do. And then the club calendar, and try to do a little bit better job of putting things on there like, what was the subject of this meeting, and where do you find that out? Okay? And that's one of the things that we ought to be doing. That should be an easy one. But things like that we need to go fix. We're going to try to get the calendar up to date and up to speed. A lot of us are trying to learn the Google workspace and appreciate the fact that you're going to make some mistakes, and appreciate the fact that when Mike and I get on the same document and don't realize we're on it, and we're both changing it independently, it gets a little crazy sometimes, but the tools are pretty efficient. Winter Field Day, got that 24th, 25th, Tech Fest date. Bylaws vote February 17th, and we'll talk about that in more detail. And then the education plan workshops, starting to think about, for instance, doing I don't know if you know what a code plug is. It's probably a digital set of channels for DMR, stuff like that. But basically, there's an analog version of that for 2 meter and 440. And we're putting together a list of the channels that we'd like to have as a standard set for anybody who wants to put them on their HTs. And we're going to be giving away some of these HTs for the VE testing. If you're a club member and you pass a technician test, you'll walk out with an HT that's loaded up with that set of frequencies. So you get on the air when the FCC says in 2 days you're good. Okay. Then we're going to take a better cut at a high-level version of what's left to be done on the website. And then the Dayton Hannafest is the 28th. So that's kind of the list I'm working on. If there's something on there that you don't see that you think needs to be on there, let me know. Okay, here's the board as it stands after the election. And you can see that I just wanted to put this up so you know who's where. And you can see why the vice president slot's something that's pretty high on my list to get done. Any volunteers, I'll be happy to talk to you. Okay, bylaws changes. This has been an interesting exercise for a lot of us. But here's a top-down version of what we did and why we did it. The main thing was to make it a lot less restrictive. We had a lot of things that were plowed into the bylaws that probably should have been in the procedures or an operating document as opposed to the bylaws. And so it encumbered the board and the subcommittee members as to what they could do. So we said, look, let's clear that out and get that out of the way. So we stripped down a lot of the stuff that didn't need to be in the bylaws. And that was the number one. Next one is on the secretary. We got a website now. We've got digital records to keep. We lost what do you call it? A registration? Doesn't matter. We lost a document that we had. Roy, what do you call it? Where we missed the date to renew and hold on to an IP. What do you call it? Domain. We lost the domain because we didn't understand where it was and when it was going to expire. So things like that, we need to try to get a better feel for, and the secretary is the right place to do that. Okay, and digital records, it's not good enough to have a voice record or a video record of a meeting. You got to have a digital record that is basically something you can read or you can copy to be documented. The VP role, the one thing we did there is we changed and said, all right, the VP role needs to include the activities function, but the activities function needs more horsepower than that. So let's use 2 or 3 people working with the VP based on what's being looked at, what's being done, and what skill sets we've got to work with, and just have that small team rotating through the year. So that's what we tried to do with it. And if you look at the bylaws, you saw that the VP role was kind of expanded a fair amount just to make it clear, because I had to operate in that role last year. the VP and the activities chairman, so I learned it pretty well. It's not an easy role. Voting, a lot of what we're doing is bringing the online voting so we can do the voting here and also the voting online and have records and details to back it up. And then the governance issue was basically the ability to have the president form and disform special committees as they need to be built to do activities. So that's the high-level version of what we tried to do. And what time are I got 3 minutes left. Okay. The one thing we found out was that a number of members said, would you read my email and see if you agree with my comment as to what's wrong with this? And well, one of the people who replied was a lawyer, and we thought, maybe that's a good idea to sit down and say, let's take a deeper look. So I basically went to AI and said, okay, take that and the bylaws we've proposed and these inputs and distill it to something that says what's important in here and is it enough to stop the process and fix it, okay? So what we're doing is we're inserting another step with a lawyer, talk to him today, and we're going to sit down and go through it from that perspective and make sure that the things like what's the size of the quorum and some of the things that some of you mentioned, go back through that and make sure we're on solid ground. So that's where we are right now. We're going to try to do that in the next 1 to 2 weeks. Mike?
Are you still going to hold the vote after the document's updated 30 days later?
Mike's raising the question, and Mike and I came away with the saying that one way to do it is to just say, look, we're going to go through it, and whatever time it takes, we'll get it done. And we'll just push the vote out one month and say we'll do it in March instead of February. Okay, that's against my nature to let things just keep going like that. So, you know, but the more I thought about what it would take to get it done, we're going to try. But I think the real issue is, can you amend a 30-day advance notice and still have the vote? And the answer is probably no. So that's I'm just trying to give you a sense of where we are, but just bring you up to date for it. I got 1 more minute and I'm out of here. I think, yeah, right, okay. This is a new membership growth strategy to say, look, we need to get new people in this club. We got Tech Fest coming up, and we had 50 CPO kits built in the last year or two. What better pool of people to get your hands on than those kids? So I said, okay, let's start thinking about that. And what we're going to do, basically, is we're going to say, let's go after those kids. We'll give them a flyer that says how they can get their technician license and walk away with a radio, which is what this list is all about, okay? Do a ham cram and do the VE testing in the same day. So you get through a license, technician license, 1 day shot. And the premise is that ahead of time, you say, look, do the work on your own, go through the questions that are on your iPad or your iPhone or whatever. There's a lot of different ones there. Ham radio prep is probably one of the better ones, but there are others. It's got a little bit of a price tag to it. So, but the idea is they've already gone through all the questions. They've already thought through it themselves, and they've got to where they can pass their own test of 75 or 85% on each section. So they come in with that knowledge. So now you can say, all right, we're going to answer all the questions you had and didn't understand, and we're going to run through all those questions just to make sure you feel like you got it. And then we're going to do a technician test that afternoon and let you walk out with a radio that's got all the NFARL channels on it. So you got a good start. And then after that, we'll say, all right, we'll do a workshop that if you want to add some channels to it, or you want to put an outside antenna that can get longer distance on the repeaters, we're going to do a ladder line J-pole construction and do whatever we need to do on the code on the radios themselves as kind of a workshop. So that's kind of what the plan looks like, and that's where we're headed with it. So they can either have a radio or they can have a full membership free for a year. Either one. But the idea is to get new people in the club and try to use this as a pilot. And I'd like to get to a point that we can do two classes a year at least, and just do it in one day. I did the Georgia Tech ham cram. Audrey did some of the original. She did the first section, and I watched her do it, and I stayed there long enough to realize she just took 40 students, 39 of them passed, and the second time the other person passed. But out of 40, they got a pretty good hit ratio because they came in prepared. They're also double E and software students. So it's, granted, you got a pool that's, knows what they're doing. But I got the idea that says, hey, look, this is something worthwhile. And I see more and more clubs going to teach the answers as opposed to teach the theory to a technician. One of the things we did 2 years ago, we had 3 kids that were, I'm being pulled off the stage. Are we ready to go the other way?
Let's see.
Okay. I'll make a sentence or two and then we'll go. Okay. Yep. Okay, for those of you who don't know Rob Sherwood, like I said, he's about the same age I am. He started with Sherwood Electronics and has been into the performance side for his whole career. Done a lot of work with large forums, with large Hamfest and Hamventions and things like that. He did some of his first work was in the Ham Radio magazine. Apparently QST didn't want to put his stuff in there, so Ham Radio did. And he's pretty famous. I bought my 7300 because of what his list told me, and it's worked out pretty well. So I'm pleased that he's here.
3-1 November, Charlie is correct.